attacking and casting spells. This is where we're going to get into a bit of dice rolls, so I'm just going to go through some stuff real fast here. So if you look, I'm going to try and, just zoom in a little bit on this. Okay. So these are what you can attack with. These are your weapons, and of course you can always just punch somebody. So range, this is from how far away you can hit something. So with the crossbow, you can hit someone from 30 feet away just fine. That little grayed out number is a long shot, and you take disadvantage, meaning, you roll You roll 2 dice for your attack roll and take the lowest one. Hit/DC, this is when you go to attack something, you do an attack roll. You roll a d20, and your roll is then compared to their armor class. If your roll is equal to or higher than their armor class, then you hit, and you end up doing damage. So when you roll your d20, because you have a proficiency of +4 with this weapon, you add 4 to your roll. So if you roll a 14, your hit roll is then 18 because you add the 4, and if the armor class is, say, 13, well, then you hit. If you hit, I'll tell you, do your damage roll, and this is when you go to the little damage chart over here. So a crossbow does 1d6 damage, meaning you roll a d6 and then take that number. But since you have an extra proficiency in it, right here you can see Stabitha has +2. So you roll your d6, add 2 to that number, and then call it out. So if you roll a 6, then she does 8 damage. At which point I will take that away from the enemy or whatever, but that's how that works. So if she's far away, she won't use the crossbow, but if she's close in, if you're close into an enemy, you can use the dagger. You can throw it. You see it says thrown property, or stab with it, does 1d4 +2, or if something's really close to you, or you want to run up on something and stab it, you might want to use the rapier because it's 1d8 +2. So the d8 has a chance to do more damage. You could, of course, roll a 1 or a 2, same as with the 1d4, but you could also roll an 8 and do a maximum of 10 damage with this. Going over to spells, there are some cantrips that do damage, like Vicious Mockery. You can use that as your attack action. Instead of stabbing or shooting something, you can say you're using a cantrip, like Vicious Mockery or something like that, and then it does a 1d4. Now, some of them have hit effects. So Vicious Mockery you can just cast, and the enemy has to make a wisdom save, so wisdom 13. So if you're like, I cast Vicious Mockery, then I, as the DM for that character, have to roll their wisdom save, and you see the saving throws over here. So say I roll a 14, and it's like, aha, but it has a -1 on wisdom. Then you hit, because ties go to the player. You can also, for your turn, cast a larger spell, like, say, Cure Wounds if you're hurt, or Thunder Wave, which does 2d8 damage. So, yeah, you can cast spells, you can use weapons, but this is kind of how you calculate the damage. So you see, under Cure Wounds, it doesn't have a hit or DC effect. So if it has hit, like if you go over to the weapons, it will have a hit, so that's +4 to hit. None of these spells do. Some do, some don't, but they have DC effects, which means that the character has to make a saving throw. So Bane, character has to make a saving throw of 13. If they fail, then it hits. Or Wisdom saved for Charm. This doesn't have anything, which means that it works every single time you cast it. There are some attack spells like that. There are some saving spells like Cure Wounds like that. And so say you want to heal yourself. Let's say you're hurt really bad and you're like, oh, I want to cast Cure Wounds. So you cast it, you take up the slot, and then the effect. So you roll. So the healing is 1d8 +3. So you roll your d8, add 3 to the roll, and that is the total number of hit points or healing that somebody gets back.